Welcome, everyone. It is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call to order this meeting of the College Station ISD Board of Trustees. Declaration of a quorum, we have 7 members present. Welcome to this meeting of College Station Independent School District Board of Trustees. We were elected at large to represent the interests of our community and our state in educating our students. Our mission for our students in this district is success each life, each day, each hour. We adhere to all pertinent laws, policies, and procedures in posting agendas and conducting our meetings. The detailed agenda information was made available to us at least 3 business days in advance, and we have all come to this meeting informed and prepared. We have just completed a workshop session where we heard reports and discussed much of the information needed to make decisions in either this meeting or in upcoming meetings. This is a meeting of the 7 trustees in a public setting rather than a public meeting. As such, public comment is included on the agenda at a specific time and requires us to listen rather than act so as to abide by the Open Meetings Act. We are pleased that you have taken time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school district, and we thank you for your interest in and support of our students. And we are going to jump into our pledges. We have students from our summer day camp who are going to help us.
I'm gonna help you. All right, so we're gonna do Ella, and then Kara can stay right here, and then Maddie, and then Ellison. Okay. All right. All right, so my name is Kelly Meza, and I'm a site director for our summer day camp program. And with me today, I have Kara Mae Hoffman representing Southwood Valley Junior Camp, and I'm gonna give her a few seconds to share. Wait, what do I do? So you're gonna share your favorite camp stuff.
Okay. Wait, I like start from that part.
Yeah, you can.
Good evening. My name is Kara Mae Hoffman, and I'm a third grader at Greens Prairie Elementary. My favorite counselor was Miss Reagan because she'd always remember my name. Every time she saw me, she would say, "Hi, Kara Mae," and it made me feel really special. My favorite day at camp was water day because the obstacles was so much fun. Even though I didn't win, I had so much fun, and I also made lots of new friends, and I really enjoyed all the field trips. Thank you for all the counselors and staff for making summer day camp such a fun place.
And with me representing Southwood Valley Senior Camp, I have Ellison Childs.
Good evening. What I like about summer day camp is all the fun field trips and the amazing group games. I want to give a special shout out to Miss Kendall, Mr. Brendan, and Miss Olivia, and so many more counselors for just being the best they can be. I can't wait for next summer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sydney Patterson. I was an assistant site director this past summer at Pebble Creek Summer Day Camp. Here with me representing junior camp, I have Ella Kate Kane. You ready?
My favorite thing about summer day camp is always on some days on Friday we get to have ice cream floats, and I also like the counselors.
All right, and then here with me representing senior camp, I have Maddie Grace Kane.
Hi, my name is Maddie Grace Kane. I'm a sixth grader at Pecan Trail. The things I like most about summer day camp are really just the people, because the people are so nice and kind and helpful, and they do lots of stuff for us.
And now you're going to start with your reading, okay?
Good evening. Welcome to the CSISD August board meeting. Please stand for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Now please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you.
All right, on your agenda, you might see that we were going to recognize some students and staff in our fine arts program, but there was a schedule conflict for some of them, so we are going to do that next month. I do want to recognize the artwork provided by our summer day camp, and it is in the back of the boardroom, so take a look at that as you have an opportunity, and then we're going to move into a few staff recognitions.
Good evening, Dr. Harkrider, Board of Trustees. I'm here to welcome some new people from outside the district, but also welcome people into new roles inside the district. We will start and we will recognize these individuals and they will stand so that they can give you a wave. We have several on our list. We're going to start with our Assistant Principal of South Knoll Elementary, Mr. Josh Sender. Josh has a total of 18 years in education, and he's coming from Pecan Trail, where he served 7 years as an instructional coach. Thank you, Mr. Zender. Our next is Mr. Bob Battle. He is the assistant principal of AMCMS. He's coming from Consol. He has a total of 12 years of educational experience and 2 as substitute principal. Mr. Christopher Crowther, assistant principal of AMCMS. He has a total of 5 years in education, 1 as an instructional coach and 1 as an assistant principal. And he is coming from the same campus. He is moving up the ranks. Mrs. Clarissa Riedel is coming from back to us after 8 years from Alabama. She is returning to College Station ISD. She has 16 years total education experience and 5 as an assistant principal. We welcome her back. Mr. Alfred Scott coming to us from Bryan ISD. He has a total of 21 years of education experience, 4 as a principal and 10 as an assistant principal, and he's going to be the assistant principal at Welborn Middle School. Next, as we move into central office, our Director of Business Services, Mr. Chase Brooks. He is coming to us from Cy-Fair ISD. Total educational experience is 3 years, 8 years in finance and business services. Our district behavior coordinator, Mrs. Laney Grawl. Laney came to us to central office from the CSMS assistant principal role. She has 20 years total education experience, 4 as an assistant principal and 9 as a school counselor. Special Services Coordinator, Jocelyn Lamb. She has a total of 14 years educational experience, and she's been a licensed psychologist for 14 years. Mrs. Reagan Sappel, she is also a special services coordinator. She has 12 years of educational experience. She was a director at Odessa College for 4 years and has been an assistant principal for 3 years. And last but certainly not least, our office manager for Education Foundation, Mrs. Lindsay Matthews. She's coming from Bryan ISD to join our team. She has a total of 17 years in education and is instructional technology specialist for 10. We welcome all of these members to our team, and we appreciate you choosing CSISD.
Okay, the next item on our agenda are board reports. Okay, I'll start. Education Foundation had their first meeting on August 18th. Employee giving campaign presentations went extremely well, and they're going to set a new record for giving this year. And the CSISD staff is loving the Space Mission Ready theme, and it's Space Mission Ready since 1999. Teaching grant applications are open and they're due October 1st. And the Back to School Bash at Chrissy's Closet on August 15th went very well. It was very well attended. A lot of new families. They gave out 320 backpacks and school supplies. And at the last meeting, Amy presented the annual report for the 2025-26 school year, and it's also on the Education Foundation website if anyone wants to go look. And then I'll go ahead and do Head Start Policy Council. Their early education programs are off to a strong start. The Head Start is currently full with 221 students across 12 classrooms, including 115 3-year-old students. We also have 15 3-year-olds on the waiting list, and all 15 students on the waiting list applied after August 1st. The pre-K program is currently serves 206 4-year-old students across 11 classrooms. And they're proud to share that all eligible 4-year-olds are enrolled. And so we don't have a waiting list right now for pre-K. All eligible students are enrolled as they qualify. And these enrollment numbers reflect the continued strong demand for our early childhood programs and our commitment to ensuring eligible students have access to high quality learning opportunities. So thank you to Ms. Rice and Ms. Jones and their staff.
Missy, just an announcement I wanted to share. Our primary responsibility as elected school board members is to serve as effective professional stewards of the entire district, the students, the staff, teachers, administrators, and taxpayers. To do that successfully and legally, we have to operate strictly within a framework of state law, our local board policies, and operating procedures we all agreed to uphold upon taking office. I need to focus today on 2 core expectations set forth in governance standards: acting strictly within designated trustee authority, and representing our district with integrity and professionalism. Under Texas Education Code 11.0051 and our local BBAA policy, individual trustees hold 0 operational or administrative authority outside of a legally called board meeting. When individual members independently pursue administrative work, conduct off-the-books real estate inquiries, or seek outside professional evaluations to substitute for the professionals this board legally authorized. It violates our governance model, creates duplicate work, wastes valuable staff time, misuses district resources, and directly interferes with administrative processes that were legally delegated to our superintendent. Furthermore, under the board code of ethics, BBD local, every trustee pledges to protect the integrity and promote the positive image of our district. Bypassing established protocols to air internal grievances publicly on social media or otherwise, or using information outside channels to cultivate public distrust fails that commitment. Constructive debate inside this boardroom is healthy, but constant public attacks and operating outside our established protocols does not serve our students. Our community elected us to work together. We evaluate our superintendent through our established formal processes, not through public disparagement or independent operational overreach. We must be careful not to let anonymous social media chatter or vocal online rumor mills dictate the governance of our school district. As elected officials, our duty is loyalty to the entire community and the thousands of students, teachers, and staff who depend on us, not to online commentary, personal agendas, or unverified rumors. When board members or public actions react to anonymous noise rather than verified facts and government due diligence, it degrades public trust and distracts from our primary mission. Healthy oversight is built on transparent factual evaluation, not online echo chambers. When we allow personal dislike of certain people or social media pressure to drive our behavior and comments, we surrender our independent judgment and fail the standard governance of our community expects from us. We are not partisan politicians running for office. We are trustees of the public trust. Moving forward, I ask this board commit to two clear standards. Strictly follow administrative protocol. All requests for information, reports, and administrative reviews must route formally through the board president and superintendent. Uphold institutional decorum. We must keep our focus on what benefits the entire district, respecting the professional team we hired to run daily operations. There's obviously a faction within our community who believes CSISD can do no right, and for whatever reason, personal vendettas, changes they don't like, misunderstandings of law or school finance, etc., they will never trust us until we do exactly what they want, even if it would mean ignoring facts or acting outside of the law and our governance model. However, if we want the rest of our vast community to continue to trust this district, we must show the respect the law, policies, and governance structures that guide it. I also want to mention a dangerous narrative that often gets pushed during these disagreements. The false idea that it's teachers versus administration. No one sitting in this room and no one on our administrative staff is against our teachers. The idea is preposterous and insulting. And if any one of us echoes, supports, or doesn't shut that narrative down, we are part of the division and problem, and quite honestly are violating our duties. This board, our central office personnel, principals, administrative team work hard, quite often with innumerable roadblocks and speed bumps from above, to support our classrooms and give teachers the resources they need to succeed. Trying to pit staff members against one another or creating an us versus them environment does not help a single teacher, and it certainly does not help our students. Unlike most on this board, my spouse is a teacher, and I think I understand this better, or at least as well as most. I also still have kids in the district. I know this will fall on some deaf ears for some of us, for some who are listening, especially when we get back into our social media echo chambers where emotions like clicks and likes are more important than facts, honesty, and owning and communicating hard decisions, even if some people don't like them. But I, perhaps naively, hope it doesn't. We are all, or should be, on the same team. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do a couple of committee reports.
I'm sorry, Ms. Heggie. I have to comment. And I agree with the vast majority. Well, he wasn't on the agenda to have a
know, and
written
I
statement.
don't want to
read
get us
to
into a
everyone.
back and forth. I mean, I probably didn't need to fall under board reports, but I don't think we can have a discussion about those kind of items right now because that is not, I think, part of this agenda.
But he can alter and offer statement outside of board report, but the rest of us can't comment about that.
It was an announcement.
I think that I would let you make a board report, but I need you to not, I need y'all not to go back and forth because I don't think that's
I'm
what we're
not,
doing
I
right
just,
now.
as a board member, would have appreciated the fact if we want to have a statement like that read, it'd have been shared with all of us in advance.
I had no idea that was coming either.
Well, you are the president, Ms. Heggie.
I understand that. I think that we need to get back to our
And
agenda.
Darren, by the way, my wife is a teacher as well, so I have great insight into how this is handled.
I know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
I'm
to
going to
be
get
clear,
us back to the agenda.
yeah, just
okay?
to be clear, I'm not going to comment on that either. Are we allowed to bring statements and just read them whenever we want?
I don't think that that's what we should be doing.
Okay.
No, okay. I'm going to get us back to the agenda
Great.
right now because I don't think that we should have any further discussion on that item.
Agree.
Mr. Martindale, Ms. Simmons, and I went to the intergovernmental committee meeting, the first intergovernmental council meeting, the first one. And at that meeting, the discussion this month was on mental health crisis and how our law enforcement and other organizations in the community respond to those crises, and also kind of just an overall general report on what kind of resources we have in our community for mental health. I did also, we had a safety and security committee meeting for the first time for this school year, and we don't report out of that, but we did have that meeting, and great things are always being done in the district on safety and security. Are there any other board reports on the items listed here? Dr. Harkrider.
Yes, ma'am. Sunday, August the 16th, we had our CTE open house and welcomed over 500 community members who got to walk through the facility. A lot of great feedback and excited about the future opportunities for our young men and women as they go through that facility for the next several years. Last Wednesday, August the 19th, our district came back to life with over 13,700 students. Came back to us. It's been a great 5 days of school, and we are obviously extremely happy to have everybody back. Multiple sports are already underway. Football season kicks off Friday night for Consol, College Station High School Saturday. Next week, September 1st, we have our Education Foundation board meeting. September 2nd is our DEIC, and September 7th is our Labor Day holiday.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is hearing of citizens. During this time, we will hear from citizens who registered to speak prior to the meeting in accordance with board operating procedures. The Open Meetings Act prevents us from responding to speakers regarding items not on the agenda. Comments related to items on the agenda may be discussed during the deliberations on that specific agenda item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Those needing an interpreter may have up to 6 minutes. Each person has one opportunity at the microphone regardless of minutes used. Unused minutes may not be accrued by another speaker. The executive assistant will time the comments and alert the president when time has expired. The board asks that those addressing the board refrain from derogatory comments. Please begin your time speaking by stating your name and whether you currently live in College Station ISD. Our speaker tonight is Mr. Chad Lehrman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chad Lehrman. I am a resident of College Station ISD, and I am also a teacher at College Station High School. Teachers don't need to be reminded of their why, they need to be reminded of their worth. That phrase has been all over my social media. That quote by Dr. Brad Johnson also concluded our convocation. Rather than inspire many teachers in this district, it reminded us of a sad truth, that unfortunately, what CSISD says about teacher worth is not what they do. I've been in this district for 15 years. I have been here through 4 different superintendents. I've had 4 different principals. I've taught most of my time at CSHS. I teach social studies. I've been a member of the Teacher Leader Academy. I was a part of the inaugural group of that. I was on the CSISD Dream Team. I created and led a program called CSISD Leads that taught students from 5th through 8th grade about leadership and ethics. I've been a 7-time Hall of Fame teacher. My wife teaches at CSHS. She is also a TLA member, and she is a Teacher of the Year. We have 2 Hall of Fame daughters, the oldest of which is a special education major at Texas A&M. You know where she doesn't want to teach? Here. And you know what else? Many of her fellow classmates are looking around and saying, we don't want to be there either, because they see the chasm between what we say about what we're going to do for teachers and what we do. And yeah, I know that there's issues when it comes to state funding, but many districts around the state find a way to take care of their people. So when you tell us to remember our worth, I want you to hear these things. Number 1, when 2 days before school, teachers are told, hey, we can't bus your kids to school, got to find some other way, with no warning, we learn our worth. When paras, instructional assistants, bus drivers, the people who literally drive our buses to school district success, barely have enough money in their paychecks to cover their insurance costs, yet certain people in this district are making 6-figure salaries and get all of their insurance paid for. What is our worth? When we as teachers go and to attend listening sessions where central office staff hear what we have to say, and 6 months later we get an FAQ with no fanfare and little attention and boilerplate answers that don't answer our questions. Questions like, when the data shows Solution Tree has no net benefit for student growth, as seen in the entire state of Arkansas, why are we giving them more money? We understand our worth when we see on KBTX people saying, well, our administrative costs are below state averages. When in fact, if we look at the TAPER reports, state administrative costs versus administrative salaries are 2 different things. And our administrative salaries are 20% higher than the state average. Our teacher salaries, 10% less. That's what we're worth. And in fact, when you look at the fact that of the 20 districts, the 20 districts within 70 miles of CSI, 3 years ago, we ranked 13th. Now we rank 15th in teacher salaries. Every year, CSISD reminds us of our worth. Our students outperform.
Thank you, Mr. Lehrman. All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. That is items G, H2 to H3, I1 to I2, and J3 to J11.
Motion approved as presented.
Oh, and I was supposed to let you guys know, thank you, Dr. Harketter's pointing that out. I do have one disclosure on item J5 because some of the information that you have in that link, there was a sample for the agreement that we're going to have with A&M. That is not like the current one. It was giving you a sample of what that would look like, but obviously we don't have the new one yet. Am I saying that correctly, Dr. Harkreiter? Okay.
So what are we doing? 5 is, it will be tabled till next month, or I'm sorry, I didn't, J5, is that what we're speaking of?
Item J5 is about consideration and possible approval to enter into an interlocal agreement with the Texas A&M University system. And it gives you the information there, but the disclosure is that when you clicked down into the
quotes.
links there, it was the sample from the past. It wasn't like the new one that we're going to be entering into. Does that make sense?
So you're still proposing it on consent?
Yes, yes. With the quote, all of these numbers are
The
correct.
language is correct. The attachments were not.
That's
up there.
right, correct.
I'll second.
Okay, I have to apologize. I missed the first when he leaned over to me. Okay, so
Motion to approve.
I
I had
have
motioned to
a
approve.
motion from Dr. Payne and a second from Ms. McAdams to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 7-0. That's going to move us to item H1, which is 2026 STAR results. Mr. Mann.
All right. President Iggy, thank you very much. Dr. Harkreiter, Board of Trustees, my pleasure to come this evening to get to brag on the hard work of our teachers and our staff of everything that they've accomplished this past year through their state assessment practices. And so I'm going to jump right into it. We will start with reading and English EOC together. Well, not together, but the first section, they'll be broken apart. But what you're going to see here in this first slide, and the process is going to be similar as we go through these. This first slide I put together more as a heat map, and you'll see across the bottom, the reddish shade is the below state. If the percentages are white, then it's equal to the percentage of the state performance, and if it's green, then it's above the state performance. I like colors on graphs because it's hard to just look at numbers and make sense of them, and so I like the heat map approach. I think it makes it very visible for us to see how we are performing. And the other piece, just to make sure everyone that's watching is oriented, the did not meet, that's what D&M stands for. And so did not meets approaches, and approaches means approaching grade level, and then meets is meets grade level, and then masters is mastering grade level. That's STAR language. And so we'll see these same formats as we go through these charts. And so this is reading grades 3 and 4. And so you can see up here by campus how we performed against the state. And then you can also see in the same heat map format is how we performed compared to the previous year as campuses. Okay, so this is not against the state, this is the campuses against themselves. Because not only are we measured on accountability for how we do in achievement, which is passing, but we are also measured on growth. And I always talk with our campus staff as the director of school improvement. It is all about how you perform against yourself the previous year. And you know how you performed against yourself, and so let's use that metric as our floor to continue pushing up. And so we look at this data through this lens to help us know where we are in that mindset. So here's reading 3 and 4 compared to the previous year. And then we look at 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th on the same slide. So this is our achievement compared against the state. And you can see it by campus with the heat map, and you can see lots of green, especially on the 6th grade side and on the 8th grade side, which is a great thing. And then you can see the same campuses, how they did in reading compared against themselves. And we see lots of green on here because we're seeing lots of improvements with how we're doing in most of our grade levels. And so it's a good thing to see those. And then our EOC for English 1 and English 2. And as it's noted there, College View High School Accelerated Academy. That number fluctuates every year because it depends on how many students are enrolled in the Accelerated Academy. And if there's fewer than 5 tests, then the state does not report that information. So that's why that black bar is on there. But you can see our English 1 EOC numbers and how we performed against the state. And so that's where we are. And it can be a little, I forgot to mention this earlier, it can be a little offsetting, like, well, this number, you want to see this number smaller than what the state on the did not meets, because then that means more students are over here on the approaches, meets, and master side. And then you can see the difference compared to the prior year. And so you can see with English 1, the growth isn't quite as strong as it was in English 2. But we're definitely seeing growth in many of the areas. Any questions about English before I move forward into math and algebra? Yes, ma'am.
Just making sure I'm understanding the way it's presented. If you go back one time, you, like as you just said, maybe it's okay if it was actually red. No.
The
Sorry.
red.
We want them all to be green, right?
Well, the did not meets, we actually want to see those because we want to see that number go down.
Right.
That's
so the other
we
ones we
actually
want to
had
go up.
4% less kids fail the test, right? So we want to see that number because we want to see increases in approaches and meets. We really want to see the increases in meets and masters. But we'll take approaches when we can get approaches because that's growth. Okay, but it's okay to see the red here. It's whenever we see the green here, then we're going in the opposite direction. We want to see more kids. We want to see that getting
So,
down. Yeah.
so on did not meets, the red is a positive.
Yes, sir.
So for future, I think it'd be,
Sure.
you can ask the rest of the group, but I would make that green because that's
Okay.
a positive indicator. I get that the score went down, but
Right.
it's a positive indicator.
I can do that.
Because if you just take it as a heat map, you don't register that.
Understood.
Thank you, though. Wonderful.
Appreciate the feedback.
Information.
Gotcha. Algebra and math. So we can see the same thing, star math. So this is compared against the state. So this is our achievement rates. And you can see the metric that's on the bottom. You can see we had very strong performance in our elementary math performance, especially. Really, really good performance with those students and teachers. And then you can see the changes of how did they do compared to the previous year. And so corresponding with the amount of increases that we saw in our achievement, we saw lots of increases in our growth, which is very much in alignment with what we were seeing, of course, our math assessments over the course of the year. And so we definitely got some spots where it didn't go as high as we'd like to see, but we're really pushing in on the growth factor of things. And then we look at our star 5 and 8 and 7 and 8, or sorry, 5 through 8, our 5, 6, 7, 8 chart. And this is against the state. And so you can see 7th grade math, we know, is an area that we are digging into, and we have a lot of work, and the data shows that. Whenever we look at cohort data here in just a moment, it's going to stick out like a real sore thumb. But we've already started the plans in place in our August PD to address the issues that we're seeing with 7th grade math. But you can see that we are doing well in our middle school math ranges from 5 through 8, other than the 7th grade math component.
Can you also remind, for our 7th grade math, is every 7th grade student taking
The
this
7th
test?
grade math test? No, ma'am. So our students that are in the advanced math, they take the 8th grade math test. And so we see that pull off in there. And that was across the state this year. And so then comparing against ourselves, how are we doing against ourselves? And so tracking that as a grade, where are we at and where can we continue to grow and continue to get better? And so we definitely have got some work to do. And again, in the 7th grade math component, with the decreases that we saw across the different categories, we definitely want to see that improve. And then with Algebra 1, these are with our Algebra 1 test takers and doing very well, very strong, especially in the middle school range, which is not a surprise because we have very strong math students to take that. And then we see in our high schools, we can see where we're having some increases in our approaches, and at CSHS very strong across the board. And we just want to see continued growth, because whenever we look at how we did compared to the previous year, we saw great growth at Consolidated High School. And so we want to continue to see those growth continue, right, at Consolidated with Algebra 1. Any questions about math before we move into the sciences? Okay. So with science, very strong of all of our categories. Science probably has seen the largest amount of growth over the last couple of years, and this year continued that trend. And so you can see just how we did against the state in all of our areas, very strong performance with science in all areas. And we can see how we did against ourselves. And so we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to get better, and continuing to push the envelope with science in the work. And then you can see with our biology scores, it's very much in continuance with what we're seeing at the lower grades. And so super strong science performance by our kids. Oh, sorry about that. And then our biology compared against ourselves. And so again, everything is compared against how we did the previous year, because ultimately we're our biggest competitor against ourselves. And then continuing on with history and U.S. history. So 8th grade social studies is what we see in middle school, and you can see the performance there right at the state level and above the state level. And then you can see how we performed on the U.S. history tests. We're always very strong on our U.S. history EOCs. We had a couple of minor slips on the 8th grade test, but nothing major that brings a concern on there. So I just realized I did not have the EOC on there, but I can tell you that it's very solid and very strong. So I apologize for that. So I do like to follow and track cohorts because I feel like that's how we truly can see, are the kids growing from year to year, and not just look at continued performance of grade level to grade level every year. And so what this slide shows you here, the blue is math, the red is reading, and these are our current 5th grade, current 6th grade, current 7th grade, and current 8th grade classes of students. And so 3rd grade to 4th grade, so these are our current 5th grade students. I did not have slides before that because we'd only have one metric, so there's not a growth component to look at there. And since the assessments from 8th grade into EOCs are very different, it's not a fair assessment to connect those directly to them. But this is what I was mentioning with the 7th grade math, as it is very, very apparent. Hold on, let me get that off there. Very apparent that we see that cohort come out, but that doesn't mean that we just move on from it. That means that we've got to figure out what to do for the kids that are in on level 7th grade math. And so whenever I look at this and I look at it by ethnicity breakdown, because that's part of what we are doing, is we are tracking it by the different ethnicities of our students. And so I know it's hard to read, it's small. The blue line is Asian students. The red line is African American students. The yellow line is Hispanic students. The green line is 2 or more races. And then the orange line up here are the white students, and it's the same in every graph. So you can see that the current 5th grade students, we have the good upward trajectory, and we hope to see that continue with this current 5th grade student class whenever we come back in a year from now. What we don't want to see is any downward trajectories that we're seeing with the different pockets of kids. And so this is where the value comes in with us looking at cohort data year over year to see how they're performing. And we know that as a district, we have a goal to close achievement gaps. And the only way to do that is to really monitor the achievements and of the different pockets of kids, and then see how well are we performing, and are we in fact closing gaps or maintaining gaps. Some areas we're closing them slightly, other areas we're maintaining them. And so we have some work cut out for us with that area. And then whenever we look, the same thing with reading. And so you can see there's more consistent upward trajectory in our reading cohort data than what we have, especially again with the 7th grade math component. But we are working very hard to make that data change. So we are tracking year over year, not only grade level on how each 3rd grade or 4th grade or 5th grade performs, but how each cohort performs as they move through our system. So I do want to call out a lot of the highlights that we have. Oh, yes, sir.
Do you have any hypotheses around that? That's such a drastic drop, only that
one area.
Feels like an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hypotheses around what might have driven?
Yeah.
Do you have any hypotheses on what might have driven that anomaly on the 7th grade math? Thank you.
Sure. It's hard to, there's definitely not a one thing, right? Whenever I was intermediate school principal, middle school principal, we saw the same thing, but it was in 8th grade. So they would shift which tests the kids would take. because it depended upon the advanced math course that they're in and when they would be pulled out of that track. And so the entire state had to go to this change last year. And so it's pulled the attention across the whole state of what's happening when we pull our highest achieving math students out. I think it's just, we've just got to maintain high expectations and teach to where the kids are. I mean, there's no easy answer for it. And that's what we're digging into. We're looking at standards. We're looking at are we teaching to the standards that we need to be for all kids? And if we look at 7th grade math standards versus 7th grade advanced math standards, we may have to look at it differently. That's what our math teams are looking at. They met during the August PD as a 5 through 8 group as teachers with Jennifer Smith and Tiffany Parkerson to say, what do we need to change about this work? Because this isn't okay. Nobody feels good about this. And so I don't have a good solid answer for you, but just know that everybody's trying to figure out what to do differently. Absolutely.
And can I just to follow up, just to be clear, you're saying that the whole state is playing by the same rules about when they test
ma'am.
for this math now? Okay.
That's been a
Yeah, 'cause
change.
I thought, yeah, we used to have some flexibility, but everybody's doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah. What I mean by that is the data piece is pulled out for us. It's always been an issue where we've had that many kids pulled out, but it hasn't been now the state. It's been a change at the state level, and so we can now truly compare across the state as 7th grade math, and of course we're seeing this across the state. Whereas in the past, I don't have the best way to describe it for you, but in the past it wasn't a requirement from TEA to do the things that we're having to do now with the testing. So,
Although I could see it, maybe it doesn't account for how many, like if we have more 7th graders taking advanced
Sure.
math than other
We do.
districts, which I would think we might, right?
We
Yeah,
do.
So
We do.
that
Yeah, we
maybe
estimate.
that's an impact of it on somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, we estimate that we have 8 to 10% more kids that get pulled out than the average district does. But at the end of the day, we all want to see all of our kids do much better, right? And that's what we're working toward. We have lots of highlights to look at. And so with our STAR EOC, science, again, is a very big, bright, shiny place for us. And all the highlights that I have pulled out here is on meets and masters because the goal is grade level. Meets grade level expectations and beyond, right? And so we can see across all of our middle schools tremendous increase in science, which is a great thing to see. And I think that's a testament to the work of the science staff, the science teachers, and Amanda Gibson and everything that she's been pushing to support them in their work. And you can see the same thing feeding up from intermediate, right? And so it's a really, really great thing to see double-digit increases in meets and masters categories. It really is very strong. And so you look at the same thing in biology, right? It's really it just makes me smile. My wife, being a science teacher at heart, really love talking about science. But it's a good thing to see the increases. Same thing with Algebra 1. I kind of pulled this out a few moments ago. Even though at Consol, some of the metrics are not where we want to see them, they are growing tremendously. And they're telling me, what that tells me as a school improvement person, is they're doing the right things, and growth always comes before achievement. And we're seeing the growth. So the achievement's going to continue to come. We've just got to keep pushing on the right things. With Rock Prairie, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The amount of increase that they had at Rock Prairie is just tremendous. It really is. And so that's a great thing. And the really exciting thing is it's not only the year over year grade level increase, 3rd grade to 3rd grade, 4th grade to 4th grade, but the cohort of kids moving from 3rd grade to 4th grade, right? They continued to push those kids. And that's where it's super important for us to be tracking the cohorts of kids so that we know that we are pushing them and not being complacent with the group of high performing students. And then we're seeing very similarly with Rock Prairie and their 3rd grade, right? Double-digit gains in their meets and masters in the year over year, and then the cohort of students 14% in their performance. And so this is a great, great thing for them to see. Same thing at Pebble Creek. It really is exciting to see this amount of growth. South Knoll, 15% in meets performance and 11% in masters performance. Double-digit gains. It's great to see. And as we know, we've had an increase of our numerical ratings, so we've got 11 campuses, 11 of the 19 campuses seeing a numerical rating increase in their overall score. And whenever you really dive in and understand accountability, that's not just achievement, it's not just growth, it's both of them coming together. Because you got to do both to get to these levels, and we're going to continue pushing on that. And so, in seeing the number of A's and B's we have in the camp across the district is super exciting. And of course, we like to see the district score continuing to go up. And our CCMR work, we have been working very diligently. Our campus high school administration, our two campus testing coordinators, Randy and Amy, I mean, they have been tracking the numbers and the kids, their principals, they sit and they're looking at it and going, who doesn't have their CCMR point? Because they want to make sure that we're getting credit for the hard work. And that's the conversation that whenever I go and talk with campus staff is you guys are doing the work. We have to make sure that we're collecting the data to showcase the work that we know you're doing. And so they have really taken that on, and we're trying to do everything we can on our end to make sure they have the best data they have to keep pushing those numbers. And so the distinctions chart, you can just see the year over year 23 on the left to 26. And so this just blows up the spread of the distinctions that we have across all of our campuses based on their star performance, and having 4 elementaries earn 5 of 5 distinctions. That's a big deal. Because they have to really get nitpicky into their data to earn that level of distinction. And it's so much so that things like attendance come into play. We have campuses miss a distinction by 0.1 on their attendance marker. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it happens sometimes, right? And so we're digging into all that information with them to help them because they want to showcase their kids in their school. We do have a couple of areas of improvement. And with all this growth, we're always going to have areas to get better. 7th grade math, talked about it a few times. So this shows you in parentheses, this is the performance level of the state, and you can see it at each one of our middle school campuses with the approaches, meets, and masters level. And so, yes, we're seeing a decrease across the state at the different levels, but we're seeing more of a decrease. And I am certain that a lot of it has to do with, yeah, we have more kids coming out than most other places. But it also says, what do we need to change at 5th grade and 6th grade leading into 7th grade? Because it's not just a 1 grade level thing. And that's the conversation that's being had. That's why it was a 5 through 8 math conversation, so that we can start working this and get to this where this needs to be. And then we do have 2 campuses that we have been identified that they're on a need improvement plan, AMCMS and Welborn, and both of that is because of math. And that is because the federal government tracks the year over year growth and performance of subpopulations of students. We don't have all the details officially from TEA yet, but I do know it is connected very much to the 7th grade math from what I can see. And so I've met with both of those principals. Tiffany and myself have been there and engaged in conversations with them, and we're waiting for the official, these are the metrics we want to see improved at these campuses. And once we get that from the service center by the 31st, then we'll do the things that we need to do to keep them going and get them back onto the right track. So, said a lot. I appreciate the feedback on the heat map and the colors. Duly noted. I'll make that adjustment. But other than that, what other questions and comments do you have for me?
First, there's definitely a lot of good progress, so thank you for sharing that, and thanks to all our teachers who continue to work hard at this every day. One specific question on College View High School made actually the biggest point jump. Was that, and you didn't specifically call out that, was it mostly the CCMR, or is it score? I don't know, that was.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they absolutely. So it's definitely a combination. And one of the things that I think in the future we can probably dive more into is the percentages of how the accountability system works. CCMR is 40% of the overall grade. And so for high schools, that's a big deal.
That was a big deal.
That's a big deal. And they got 100% on their CCMR score. That's a big jump.
So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. I just noticed that one stood out, so I wanted, we know they do good work over there, so. I just also would be remiss, because I firmly believe that this is important, but but it's always a balance as well between, you know, this one test on this one day for our students, plus all the other amazing things that they're doing the other 170 days of the year and to get here. So it is good to see and be recognized for good improvement work, and it is needed, especially when we start looking across all of our student groups. So that is appreciated, but we also I hope we all just keep in mind too, and maybe even continue to put emphasis on some of the other things that our district does so well for our students every day. So, thanks.
Yeah, I would just like to add that it is hard when we start talking about test scores because sometimes we have really great things to say, and sometimes there's still going to be those areas that we need to improve on. But it doesn't. None of that takes away from the work that all of our teachers and students and everyone who supports them are doing every day. So just think that that's important to say at the end of any time when we're talking about test scores, because you know what, that one kid that maybe still is approaching and hasn't met may have seen growth in some great areas that year. And so we're talking about numbers, but these are individual students, and just appreciate the work that you guys do with them every day.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mann. All right, that is going to move us to item J1, which is to consider authorizing the superintendent to renew insurance coverage for property and casualty, general liability, auto liability, and physical damage, school leaders, underground storage, and crime fidelity. Ms. Wilson.
It's from the hub. Sorry. And so just go ahead and jump in it. So tonight I'm bringing you a renewal for $2,101,762, which is a drop of $333,487. That really is attributed to in detail to the commercial property. Went from 0.3 per insured dollar, 100 per insured dollar to 22, I believe, cents. So that was a huge drop, and we really appreciate that. That attributed to $424,000 of savings. There is a little bit of increases in the others. One of them is auto liability and physical damage. That's really because we added vehicles to the plan. We have some that we are trying to sell, and we have them on liability only. Once they drop off, you'll see a little bit of decrease there for this fiscal year. Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, there's no
So
questions.
besides the vehicles being dropped off, really it's more just rate changes that are.
We did increase the value of our property about 30 million, and we kind of worked with them. We're valuing, we're insuring about 664 million in property. So we had a little bit of an increase in property value that we're insuring. But other than that, it's all a decrease. We would have seen a larger decrease, but we added that additional value.
Sure, but so obviously then the rate is really what's giving us the
Absolutely.
333.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, even with new property.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
I still got to see a $333,000 drop, which is a positive.
Great, thank you.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second. I have a motion by Dr. Payne and a second by Ms. Simmons to approve authorizing the superintendent to renew this insurance coverage. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 7-0. That's going to move us to item J2, which is consideration and possible approval of the Board of Trustees for the 26-27 school year to delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under a lot of things that you're going to tell us about. And then I'm going to let us read that motion at the end if we want to make it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to talk about the agreement for the purchase of attendance credits. And so really what happens if a district has excess revenue in Tier 1 and Tier 2 Level 2 funding, they are categorized by Texas Education Code 48.257 as possibly a preparation for a Chapter 49 election. Our district has had the election back in 2001, so it sets us up. We get a letter from TEA on July 15th that basically says we have Tier 2 funding of Tier 2 level 2 funding is above the state requirement. So we have to make this election by mid-January. So what really kind of happens is TEA sends out the letter. The reason why our district is earmarked is because of Tier 2 level 2 funding, and we talked about that a little bit in the workshop, and that is because if we had Tier 2 pennies of level 2, the guaranteed yield is 49.72. Our district's estimated number is 83.81. So that throws us a little bit higher, okay? But our district is not anticipated to have any recapture, but we have to bring this to the board for approval just in case something happens during the school year. For example, this kind of clarifies it a lot easier to me. So there are basically 3 tiers when you look at how you set a tax rate and how we get our funding. So the first one is the maximum compressed rate. That's Tier 1, and that sets that rate there. We can have, from Tier 1 of funding, we can have more revenue than we should. Then we have to send that back and recapture. Then, of course, you have Tier 2 funding. That is the 8 golden pennies, and those are precious golden pennies because we get to keep all of that. Tier 2 is the copper pennies, and that's the copper pennies that we're talking about tonight. If we were to assess those copper pennies, then they would be in recapture because our value is too high. Okay? However, our district does not assess the copper pennies at this time. That requires a voter approval. So therefore, we do not anticipate for us to be in recapture. However, we still have to go through through everything, and we have to do it. And what we choose to do is basically net Chapter 48 funds. Okay, so we do netting. We don't want to detach property. We want to do anything like this. Most people that are in this status, this is the option that they choose. So our district went ahead and made our intent through TEA, and we have to do that. And then TEA gives us approval to move forward with setting our tax rate. The next thing we have to do is just bring a contract back to the board to get approval to move forward. Basically, this is what it's saying is the reason why TEA does this, because if we were to go out for a Vader and request those copper pennies, or if something was to happen with our values that caused us to go into recapture, we have everything set at the beginning of the year, okay? But like I said, we do not anticipate to go into recapture, and we don't have the copper pennies. So this is the motion we have to make in order to prove this.
Just a question
Yes,
looking
sir.
out. I'm sorry, and if you're not sure, just tell me. I'm just thinking out. If our enrollment projections play out that we've looked at as we've looked at future budgets, eventually we're going to go into a recapture payment.
So we're right now receiving about $29 million in state funding. And so it would be a little bit of a time, but then you've also got to see how they are working right now, how they set our tax rate. Because as our values continue to increase, it compresses that tax rate. And we're kind of far from the base since our values were really twirling pretty high like we talked about in the workshop, and we've kind of slowed. So it's like 3.35% growth, so we are not compressing near as much.
So that's saving us from accelerating toward a recapture payment in the near future.
It slows us down a little bit. And that's the reason why we came out of recaptures when they started compressing the pennies. Yes, sir.
So just to be clear, because that's a lot of financial information, we are not currently as a district in recapture. I think that's good for everyone in the public to know because they hear that term a lot.
It's true. Yes, ma'am.
I move that the Board of Trustees for the 2026-2027 school year delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code TEC 11.1511C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 in the TEC Chapter 49, subchapters A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. This includes approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credits or the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit netting Chapter 48 funding.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Simmons and a second by Dr. Payne. That is the proposed motion on the screen. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is going to move us down to our executive session. The board will meet in executive session for discussion regarding the district's 23 through 26 three-year school safety and security audit. The executive session deliberations will be held pursuant to the deliberation regarding security devices or security audits closed meeting exception in the Open Meetings Act as set forth in Section 551.076 of the Texas Government Code. The board will also meet in executive session to deliberate personnel matters. The executive session deliberations will be held pursuant to the personnel matters closed meeting exception to the Texas Open Meetings Act as set forth in Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. It is 8 o'clock and we will return to open session when we're done. Thank you for being here.
I'll leave it right now because Ezra needs it for a lecture.
here. It is 8:42 and we're returning to open session, and we, if there is no objection, are going to adjourn.